and welcome to Fat Squirrel Speaks. Today is Friday, December 6th. I am Amy Beth, also known as the Fat Squirrel on Ravelry and the Fat SQRRL on Instagram. Thanks for coming over during this cold snap. I'm so happy. While I did have to break out my humidifier because the air in my house is far too dry, at least I got to wear a hat and be snuggly. Yay! Oh, speaking of hats, this is a Musselburgh, and this is yarn from M to the Third. You can find her. She has a YouTube. She's a podcast. Oh my goodness. She has a podcast. She has both M to the Third and she has Sibling Energy. She's a busy gal. And then this is her yarn. I think this is her mezcal base, if I'm not mistaken. And I like it quite a lot. So yeah. What else in terms of administrativeness? Yeah, no, I guess we should just get in. Oh, no, there's small administration. I will have an update December 15th. And it will be just some sweet little winter bird bags. So I don't have a sample to show you now, but I'll show you next time. Over on the Patreon channel, I'm continuing to do Wonder Wanders, where I talk about a little bit more in depth what I'm reading. What I do here is usually just sort of say if I finished a book and sort of my overall thoughts on it. Maybe I'll highlight what stood out to me the most. But over on Patreon, I'm trying to do more of definitely not deep dives, but more here, toes in the water. Over on Patreon, more of wading into the water, just a tiny bit, looking for seashells under the surface. So I would love your company there if you're at all interested. You can find out information at patreon.com, the Fat Squirrel. If you are interested in becoming a patron of my podcast or of anybody else's amazing creative work in the universe, we all appreciate it in low these times. But also, if you are interested, just kind of keep it in your head to not subscribe via your iOS app. So if you're a new time subscriber, you probably won't. You'll just do it on the website. But sometimes it's, anyway. Apple wants to take a 30% of your payment off the top. And then the creator has fees and everything else to contend with. And so we super appreciate your patronage in any way you'd like to give it. But if you are interested in getting more of that money into the hands of the creator, it's best to subscribe via an internet browser. So you can certainly do it on your phone. Just do it via your browser of choice, or you can of course do it on some sort of desktop, laptop, all these devices. Okay, that's enough of my self-promotion. So let's get on into the what's shenaniganing? Definitely only of the mind. Not leaving the house very much at all. But what has been going on? Of course, at Thanksgiving in the United States, I hope you had very delicious things. I hope you had very delicious leftovers, and I hope you had lots of things to be thankful for. I know I had all those things, and so I'm thankful even more. So then of course in the US, that usually means that's sort of I loved to see more people decorating immediately after Halloween this year. In the United States, decorating for the winter holidays. It brought me great joy to see, sometimes as I was taking a walk or something in a neighborhood, I would see people literally deflating their Halloween things while the other person was putting lights up for the winter holidays. And I was just thank you. Thank you for contributing to our communal enjoyment of the season. I really appreciate y'all. But I will confess, I have not done any holiday decorating. Oh, that's not true. I did put my wreath on my door. So step one, accomplished. But a combination of both, usually the teen and I put the Christmas tree up and put all the ornaments on, and we have a nice little reminisce. It's actually something that even through the teen years has been consistent, which I really am thankful for. But this year after Halloween, after Thanksgiving, they just went right back to college, and I was a little bit forlorn-y. But And so there was that already existing, and then I started to try to like kind of do the rearranging to put up the tree, and I just went into like full wobble. Just like an overwhelm of stuff, and then like really like beating myself up about stuff. Like, I mean, and like literal stuff, like physical things, like of having too much stuff in our home, and me just, anyway, I had a full wobble. So if you're having a wobble this holiday season, you are not alone, friend. Same. I hope you wobble but don't fall down. I hope you weeble your way through this holiday season. Yeah, my little weebly friends. But I think this weekend I'm going to try to put the tree up and at least put the lights on, because that's such an enjoyable thing. I love it. I love the lights. It's really lovely. And then maybe, I don't know, I thought about maybe just waiting to do the ornaments until they come home. Because like I'm only going to get, well, I may not get any more years apparently. So I might do that, because really, I mean, I thought that I don't love the baubles and all of that, but the lights are like the best part for me. So, and also the most tedious. So I don't know, I might do that. We'll see. Do you do a bunch of holiday decorating? My grandparents, I remember my grandparents, they had a tree when I was little, but then they stopped even, like, I think they would maybe do like a little tiny tree some years. But I don't want to get to that place, because it is something that I really enjoy, even though it is a bit of a faff. We'll see. That goes into my whole thing. So do you do, so we're getting closer to the end of the year. I've never been a New Year's resolution person. A couple of years, I think I have like sort of flirted with a word of the year, but have not really ever deeply integrated that into my year. Is that something you do? How do you keep it close to your heart throughout the year? Do you do word art and put it on your bullet journal? Do you have like a daily, affirmation's not the right word. Do you tell yourself something every day where you like go over it so that it can be present? I don't know. I would love to know your thoughts on that. I was thinking, just sort of like tentatively, but I was sort of thinking that maybe my word this year should be playful or play. Some iteration of that. Yeah. I think I need to bring more playfulness, more playful energy. That's never been an energy I've been very good at. And I think that not only would it be good for me to have more of that playful energy in my life, but it might be good for me to work on the things that are keeping me from being playful. Do you know what I mean? Like, so maybe it could be sort of like a top-down sort of work on my year. I don't know. Are you good at being playful as an adult? I tried to like sort of like, you know, look into like ways to like bring more play into your life, but a lot of them were just like, be more playful. A lot of them were like, be less worried. Well, that would be lovely if I could just flip that switch. So I don't know. That was the kind of one that's rolling around in my head. Are you contemplating one? Have you had one that really worked for you in the past? I also just think it might be helpful to have that as my sort of hopeful goal, sort of like my light, my guiding light for the year, because it's probably going to be pretty rough. So yeah, I don't know. Do you have something in mind? I would love to know. See then what else? Okay, let's get into the crafty stuff. Yeah. So in stitching, no, I guess the only thing in stitching I'm going to show you is I splurged and purchased the Kiriki press, so Kiriki. She does all of those like wonderful little embroidery things. She did an advent calendar for the first time this year. So she did a Christmas countdown with 12 ornaments over 24 days. And the reason I'm telling you that first is she has stated 6 of them were a surprise and 6 of them you would know about. And she has since stated that she's going to do this calendar again next year. So if you think you might purchase it, the first one I would show you would be a surprise. So you may want to like boop, 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 boop forward. Or, you know, if you're like me and you're like, no, you can show me, I won't remember by next year. So I've only completed one, but look how precious she is. Right? Oh, look, I look like a cute pig. Oh my gosh, look like I'm a cute pig. When the kiddo was little, they went through this phase where instead of saying hello to people, they would snort at them like a pig. It was really charming, although it did confuse some people. I don't even know what happened. Like they were little. I'm gonna say like 2, 3. And yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it happened once and like we laughed and therefore we had like 6 months of greeting people with snorts, but I was pro. Anyway, Piggy me is saying to Piggy you, like, look how sweet she is. Right? And I was really worried because this, there's like a, not cardboard, like a thicker version of cardboard, like not cardboard because that contains the wavy, but like a heavy paper board is in here. It's this, you can hear it. And you like whip stitch around this edge, or you buttonhole stitch, excuse me, around the edge. And I was really concerned because I was like, I don't think this is going to be really hard, but it worked out really well. There's very, very well planned in terms of like, you know, how you're going to, anyway, super cute, right? And spinning, I have a finished object. Dun, da, da. I know, it's crazy. Look at her. Look at her. So this is 8 ounces of 100% wool combed top grown in the UK. And then it also said that it was Finn. So I don't know. Usually when it says wool comb top, it means it's like a blend. But she did specifically label it as Finn. So I don't know. And let's see, 8 ounces. Yeah, I purchased this at the Wool Gathering in 2023. And it's by Gwen Erica Natural Fibers. Gwen Erica Natural Fibers. This is the first time I've ever used any of her fiber, or the first time I had seen her was at that festival. And I just love, I mean, this is totally my jam, right? And I think I especially last year was in my deep like Vera citron scarf phase. And so this color just so good. And I am just in love with a semi-solid for a spin, right? Gives you enough variation that you don't feel like you're just like same. But also I feel like it's going to be very usable. Right. So she's a 2-ply. She's a little over 550 yards. And I just really enjoyed it. I spun it on my Hanson mini spinner. Yeah, and I sort of just default to like a sort of semi-woolen sort of style of spinning. Very enjoyable. And so in knitting, I finished, after 1 million years, my Bonbec, B-O-N-B-E-C, right? My Bonbec hood, and it's a pattern by Emily Louis. No, I looked it up, and it's Luis. E-M-I-L-I-E, last name L-U-I-S. So Emily Louis. And this is Malabrigo, I think in the cactus flower, with 1 strand of a mohair silk and just like a light, like in this color. And it would have either been Knit Picks Aloft or Webb's Southampton. I like both of those quite a lot, and they're sort of like a more affordable option in that sphere. Things I did different. Mine is bigger around than the pattern suggested, even though my gauge was correct. I felt like when I first cast it on and I knit, enough, I was like, that is way too small for me for that to be comfortable. So I did cast on, I think like 20% more stitches than was suggested by the pattern. And that, I don't know, that could have been like a pre-blocking versus post-blocking gauge difference. No big deal. And then the other thing I did different is that she constructs the hood so that you go back and pick up and do like a little folded channel for your I-cord. And I decided that I did not want to knit that in stockinette because that's how I roll. So what I did is I just knit the hood and then steeked it. So I cast on 6 extra stitches, like at the edges or at the edge, and just I bound off here like I would have, or no, just split it. I don't think you bound off, but whatever. I split it like you would in terms of like, that's where I put the break, but then I cast on 6 stitches at that place to make it steek. And then I cut it up and hemmed it and put it in a channel with just some chain cord. I might go back and do an I-cord, but I wasn't sure that I even cared at the moment. So hers, I do like the way hers looked for this edging more than I like mine, but I didn't want to knit it flat because I'm that person. So yeah, there's that. Ta-da! And here's what it looks like when it's flat and not on my head. It's just sort of like a rectangle with some shaping at the top to make sure it's a little bit less pointy. So you don't go quite full Tomten, but you're still pretty close. Oh, and so here's what mine looks like inside. I did do a crochet reinforcement of my steek because this is a superwash yarn, even though it does have a mohair silk in it. I was like, that's probably sticky enough. But the reason I went ahead and did the crocheted reinforcement with just one strand of the mohair silk was that I knew since I was gonna have to sew that down, it would be nice to just have that edge to whip stitch down. And it was very pleasant to do that way. Yeah, so there's that. And then I have also completed a pair of these. These are the lambing mitts. That was a pattern that was originally available on Tolt's website. It is a pattern by Veronica Job. And I was very sad when I went to look for it last time because it wasn't there. And I was really bummed. And of course, like, I have pairs of these that I could just like reconstruct them. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But also, like, I like that there should be I hope that there's a pattern for y'all when I do something. So you can find it on the Wayback Machine. So I'll put a link in if you're interested. This one is worsted Aran weight. Their sample, they used Peace Fleece, and that's what mine are. And I love them. These are like at least 3 years old, probably older. They're probably 4 or 5 years old. And these are the mitts that I wear all the time because you can flip them up if it's very cold and you don't want to touch anything. But then it's very easy to either flip them down or, just smush them down or just use your fingers inside of them if you need to do stuff. So I love these. These are my favorite. And I enjoy making them because they're worsted weight to Aran weight. And they're pretty fast. I knit these in like 2 evenings maybe. And a little bit extra. So this yarn is Beaver Slide Dry Goods. This is their worsted weight yarn. And it's their colorway Vernal Glow. These have not been blocked yet because I needed to order more Tuft Woolen soap, and they had a Christmas scent. Oh, I hope it's delicious. I'm sure it will be. So I have not blocked these yet because I did want to do them like in something that smelled really lovely because they're a gift. So yeah, I think I love this Beaver Slide, especially after it's been blocked. It really is just lovely. So yeah, there's that. And then what have I cast on? I cast on a new pair of socks. And this is, here, I'll just show you the sock first because I really love them. And so bananas. Right, like that. She's a Christmas sock. She's a Christmas sock. Right. So this yarn I purchased several years ago, and it is from Must Stash, of course. And it's her perfect must match set. Fingering weight, 75-25 superwash merino nylon, 460 yards, so it's a skinny one. And this is her colorway, A Very Hobbit Christmas. So it was like a Christmas countdown. It's got 24 stripes and then it repeats. I put off knitting with it forever because I've kind of gone through this phase where I just don't look forward to knitting fingering weight socks, especially when it's like that 75-25 base that is, right. Yeah, that 75-25 base that's like almost 500 yards at a skein. It's just so skinny. But I have really enjoyed knitting this sock. I don't think I've knit a sock this fast in a very long time. So what pattern am I using, you might ask? These are the Fairground socks, right? Fairground socks by Kay Jones. And the pattern is written for cuff down. She has her own heel and her own toe, but I'm just using the stitch pattern and doing it on my toe up sock that I will put an afterthought heel in. So here's the back too, like it goes all the way around once you get to your, and I dig it. I've got my second one started. The pattern is perfect for me. It's one pattern row for 3 rest row and then 3 rest rows. And the pattern row does not have any purling in it. And I dig it. Now I was a little bit concerned because when I got this done, I was like, that looks way too skinny for my foot, but it totally worked fine. So I just did my normal stitch circumference. I'm a 72 stitch girl. And it's fine, even though it looks skinny, but it has a little bit of a sort of a stretchiness to it in the stitch pattern. Right. And I did my lettucey bind off, which doesn't really look that lettucey, but so I did the surprisingly stretchy bind off on these. And I'm knitting them on double zeros. So 1.75 millimeter Chalgu red lace are favorite double points, and especially in the double zero size. I've used Addie's, that one with like the kind of goldish color cord, and that join is not good in the double zeros for me. And then if I'm doing double points, I do use carbons, but those are my 2 preferred sock tools. And then I've been knitting, no, that's pretty much all I've been knitting on, but that's a lot for me. And then in what I'm reading, I have not been reading as much because I will confess, I have listened to Psychology in Seattle more than is in any way reasonable. It's become, yeah, it's a little bit of a problem. It's not a problem, but yeah, I'm kind of hooked. So I was listening to, they did a deep dive on Elon Musk, which was fascinating. Now it is, part of it is behind a paywall, so just FYI, but it was really fascinating. And then that led me, I was talking to a friend about it and she was like, oh, have you read Burn Book? And I was like, no, I've not read that. So I listened to Burn Book, and it's called Burn Book, A Tech Love Story by Kara Swisher, and here's the synopsis. From award-winning journalist Kara Swisher comes a witty, scathing, but fair accounting of the tech industry and its founders who wanted to change the world but broke it instead. Part memoir, part history, Burn Book is a necessary chronicle of tech's most powerful players. This is the inside story we've all been waiting for about modern Silicon Valley and the biggest boom in wealth creation in the history of the world. When tech titans crowed that they would move fast and break things, Kara Swisher was moving faster and breaking news. While covering the explosion of the digital sector in the early 90s, she developed a long track record of digging up and reporting the facts about this new world order. Her consistent scoops drove one CEO to accuse her of listening in the heating ducts and prompted Facebook's Sheryl Sandberg to once observe, "It is a constant joke in the Valley when people write memos for them to say, 'I hope Kara never sees this.'" While still in college, Swisher got her start at the Washington Post, where she became one of the few people in journalism. Okay, we're getting like more of a chronicle of her life. At its heart, this book is a love story too, for and about tech, from someone who knows it better than anyone. Not my favorite. It was fine. It kind of just, I guess, just didn't have what I was looking for. It had a lot of like, the internet's really bad. Yes, it is. It had a bit of how did the internet get bad. So that was interesting. But it didn't sort of have like any sort of like movement beyond how the internet got bad. Like, you know, or at least I didn't take that away from the book. And sort of like whatever analysis of the people in the tech world that was provided was just sort of like more superficial, I guess, like not like in a journalistic way, right? Like journalism is usually not very, very, not that it does, but frequently journalism is not so much about the person, but the events, right? And so that's sort of, yeah, that makes sense, right? And so, yeah, it was fine, but it wasn't my favorite. So yeah, that was Burn Book by Kara Fisher. Her personal story is very interesting in terms of like where she was and how she got there, and that like scoop mentality, which is very interesting, and to look at that in terms of like how our journalism has changed in that very short time period, really. But yeah, so that was Burn Book, a tech love story by Kara Swisher. And then I also finished The Backyard Bird Chronicles, written and illustrated by Amy Tan, with a foreword by David Allen Sibley. So I did not have a physical copy of this book. I did put it on my wish list for Christmas. But it's sort of like her nature journal, but there's more narration around it. Basically, here, I'll read you the synopsis. Tracking the natural beauty that surrounds us, the Backyard Bird Chronicles maps the passage of time through daily entries, thoughtful questions, and beautiful original sketches. With boundless charm and wit, author Amy Tan charts her foray into birding and the natural wonders of the world. In 2016, Amy Tan grew overwhelmed by the state of the world. Hatred and misinformation became a daily presence on social media, and the country felt more divisive than ever. In search of peace, Tan turned toward the natural world just beyond her window, and specifically the birds visiting her yard. But what began as an attempt to find solace turned into something far greater, an opportunity to savor quiet moments during a volatile time, connect to nature in a meaningful way, and imagine the intricate lives of the birds she admired. I really enjoyed it. Surprise, a book about birds that I enjoyed. And now, I did listen to the audio version. My library had both the book and the audiobook available electronically, and they were both available, so I went ahead and checked them out, and I listened to it and then also looked at the illustrations. It's really, really enjoyable. It's interesting so she's famous for Joy Luck Club, right? It's very interesting to see somebody sort of like move into a space where, like she said that when she was younger, she was really inspired by drawing and art. And so that's obviously like something that's, I don't know that innate is the right word, but that's something that she must have a spark for. And so it's really fun to see her nurture that spark, and like to see her, it's progression is maybe not the right word, but just to see how it changes, and to see like how events that are transpiring often, or that they also influence like her observations and her journaling. She says at one point that she really just enjoys this process because it's sort of just a reporting of the facts but that's not right. She enjoys the process because she doesn't have to have a thread that moves through everything like she would in a fiction book. And so everything can be like just its own entity, its own episode. And so it's interesting to see her do that do that writing style. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. So some people didn't. I typically am the first to like have class issues over something. It's just a reality of who I am. But I didn't feel it. Maybe because, I mean, I did sort of like raise my eyebrow because she talks about going to Birds Unlimited, which is like the priciest bird store. But it's also like a bird store we have in Indianapolis. It's not like some sort of like LA or New York City thing where it's like completely banana pants. And like it does take a lot of resources to operate her feeding sort of like setup. It takes a lot of time. And maybe that's why it didn't bother me, because I was like, yeah, no, I didn't even think about the money she was spending because she was spending so much time and effort that it felt in my brain, I know it's just like a problem I have, but in my brain it sort of like equaled out in terms of like she was really putting a lot of her personal resources, not just her money, but her time, her energy, her effort into researching and, doing the best thing for the birds and being aware of different diseases and things that can be spread at feeders. And so I don't know, it didn't bother me. But that is something just to like heads up that's a thing. And then what else? There was something else. Oh, and she's definitely like her forward is by John Sibley. And then she took class with John Muir Lawson. Is that his name? John Muir Lawson. He's like sort of like he wrote the book about nature journaling. But yeah, like if I had resources, I would want to learn from like the best or the best is not like whatever. I would want to learn from him. So future me popping in, I kind of lost the thread of where I was going with that. There are some people have sort of groused that this is kind of akin to like celebrities promoting vodka or like owning vodka labels. Like it's sort of like a publisher's just looking for things by famous people that maybe there could be other people with more merit in that field that could take up that space. But that's a valid concern, I guess, but that wasn't my concern in this case. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I've not seen the physical book. I did put it on my Christmas list. I've not seen the physical book, but it sounds like it's really lovely. So it might be something that, if you have a birder that you were looking for a gift for. So yes, that was the Backyard Bird Chronicles by Amy Tan. Enjoyed it muchly. So thank you again for coming over. I really appreciate you. I was sort of bummed not to record last week, but it was a holiday weekend, and yeah, that's just how it worked. Don't worry, I was not hustling or bustling. It was just like there was another human in the house, and like the mental load to record was too great. It's very silly, right? Like I sometimes run into this like weird thing about being perceived. And yet I am talking to you and you're going to watch it. Some of you on like a giant television. And like for a kid born in the late 70s, that's like bananas in and of itself. But it's interesting that like I get self-conscious when my partner is in the other room. That doesn't make any sense. Whatever. I'm in therapy. It's fine. So anyway, but I have enjoyed recording a little bit more. It's kind of put you more at the forefront of my brain, which has been pleasant. And I think just like a gratitude journal where it inspires you to look for gratitude more often, this is like giving me a little bit more focus. Yeah, and I appreciate you for that. I hope you enjoy some Christmas lights. I hope you enjoy some sparkly sparklies somewhere. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.